Thank you. Good afternoon and welcome to the White House. Thank you, Koki, for your kind introduction and for your commitment to this issue in this century and the previous one. Before we begin, I would like to take a moment to reflect on the terrible tragedy that we have all witnessed and borne witness to together in Newtown, Connecticut. Over the past few days, I think I've felt, as I imagine many of you did, that a particular sense of anguish of a parent with young children and who tries to be empathetic but really knows that I can only begin to imagine the pain and grief that so many of our fellow Americans have been going through in this period of time. And while knowing that I can't personally fully appreciate their struggle, I know that everyone in this room is committed to the basic idea that our children deserve our very best here and around the world. And for that, I'm particularly honored to be in this room with each of you today and would like to thank you for the work you've dedicated much of your lives doing. The President said on Sunday evening at the Sandy Hook Interfaith Prayer Vigil that our first task is caring for our children. It's our first job. If we don't get that right, we don't get anything right. And as Americans, as we grapple with this tragedy, I think we all recognize that this kind of suffering shakes us to our soul here at home and opens our eyes to the world in which we live. So it's with a profound sense of shared responsibility that we welcome you to the launch of this first ever U.S. government action plan on children in adversity. It's genuinely an honor to be here with Representative Barbara Lee and Senator Mary Landrieu, who, welcome, have dedicated so much of their time in public service to fighting on behalf of children. And while most people will know about the legislation they've passed and the actions they've taken that are in the public media, I also know about the phone calls they make to me and to my colleagues on issues large and small, because those small issues are the ones that result in our actions saving the lives and protecting the futures of handfuls of children at a time, and that really adds up, as we all know. So I'm also honored to be here with Kay Warren, a leader of just an extraordinary leader who continues to inspire us in our government. And today we'll have a group of brave individuals, Cynthia and Noah Steife and Emmanuel Jal, here as well to share their thoughts with you. Now, this action plan represents the work of more than 7 different agencies across the federal government and represents the absolute commitment of Secretary Clinton and President Obama to bring together our federal government to do better at serving kids around the world. Leaders like Ambassador Louis C. DeBaca, who are here, lead our administration's effort to fight trafficking in persons. Ambassador Susan Jacobs, a special advisor for children's issues at the State Department. George Sheldon from the Children's and Families Program at Health and Human Services, and Alan Guttmacher, a director at the National Institute for Child Health and Human Development, have all had a chance to participate on behalf of their agencies and entities. And of course, this action plan only has meaning if it actually affects the work of so many of our partners outside of government, but often on the ground in places that I have the opportunity to visit. People like Kent Hill and World Vision, people like Dr. James Heckman and Dr. Robert Block, who lead the scientific communities in this space, and of course our very own Neil Boothby. Thank you, Neil. Now I'd like to show you just a slide here of children studying in Haiti, because today's action plan is unprecedented in that in coordinating the efforts of government and expanding our investments in children around the world, we are united against a common purpose, that every child survives, that every child gets healthy food, that every child grows up in a protective and nurturing family, and that every child is safe from violence and exploitation. Those very basic principles are now, for the first time, achievable because of our actions and the actions of so many other leaders around the world. We've always known that achieving these goals are within our power. But for the first time, we have real evidence and real data that indicate it's not just within our power, it is efficient and relatively straightforward to deliver if we're willing to do things differently. The truth is that science around child development has long informed our efforts on how to support children in adversity. It was in fact studies around early childhood education that sparked the Head Start program and led to the universal pre-K movement. The landmark Bucharest Early Intervention Study, which found that children living in institutions have severely compromised IQs, and that children removed from such institutions by age 2 and placed in family care caught up in actual brain activity by age 8. At the same time, we have new scientific tools that allow us to visualize the challenges that occur when kids go without nutrition and adequate food. You can now look at MRI scans and PET scans, brain scans of children, and literally see the physical manifestation of micronutrient deficiency for children in the first few years of life, which is why this administration launched the 1,000 Days Initiative to reach children in their first 1,000 days during pregnancy and in the first 2 years of life. Today we have science, we have data, and we have passion to do something about the challenges we face. And these efforts, this is a photograph of children receiving the pneumococcal conjugate vaccine in Nicaragua. This vaccine has the capacity to save more lives than any other single child technology around, because more kids die from pneumonia than any other disease. And we know that this effort actually begins with ensuring that every child survives, that every child can celebrate their 5th birthday. And that's why this administration launched an effort to ensure that every child survives and to refocus our health interventions on the most evidence-based efforts to keep children alive. As a result, we were able to pull together the global community here in Washington just last June to make that commitment. And I'd like to show you a short video from that event.
If we meet the goal we are committing to today, if we make sure that every child everywhere has the same chance to reach his or her 5th birthday, then we will have added another story to the short list of the greatest things people have ever done for one another. And we will have set ourselves on a path to a world that is more stable, more prosperous, and more just. And it will have all started here with a simple call to action, with pictures of all the participants and what we looked like when we were 5, to remind ourselves of what's at stake. And I am honored to be with all of you as we make this pledge together.
As a result of these efforts, more than 160 governments in just the past 6 months have signed the pledge to end preventable child death in their countries. They've been joined by nearly 200 civil society groups, now making data more transparent and available so you can download an application on your iPhone called Measure DHS that will show you exactly how many children die in every country around the world. It's part of an effort to be transparent and to work with all partners. 220 faith-based organizations led by Kay Warren and the Saddleback Church have come together and started communicating healthy behavioral messages in communities from northern Rwanda to southern India, already having a huge impact on saving lives. These calls to action will make a tremendous difference, from equipping community health workers with affordable technologies like those vaccines, to ensuring mothers with HIV/AIDS have access to the testing and treatment they need to achieve an AIDS-free generation. These efforts will help ensure that no child dies. But that's not enough. And we know that while the food you eat and the immunizations you get matter, we also know that the care and protection of being in a family matters much more. And for USAID, we will be strengthening our most important priority of helping to make sure that we support children to be in families and in effective family care situations. This may mean accelerating the use of cash transfers to families at times of disasters. It may mean rethinking how we respond to refugee crises and reinvesting in systems that actually connect children to their families. In Burundi, we've developed a 3-year randomized impact evaluation to explore how village savings and loans associations, coupled with family counseling, could reduce poverty and encourage improved family care. The results we've seen from a midterm evaluation are very powerful. We've seen an increase of 20% in the amount households spend on children as a result of this effort. And cases of harsh discipline, like hitting a child with a stick, fell by 64% in that particular setting. Challenging at the best of times, we now know much more about how we can help children succeed in family situations. And we also know how we can prioritize this work in the times of crisis and conflict. In the aftermath of the Haiti earthquake, we implemented emergency family tracing programs to reunite children with their parents. And this past year in the Horn of Africa, when the worst drought in 60 years sent tens of thousands of families leaving their communities and fleeing to refugee settings, we helped establish a single database that multiple partners across refugee camps could use to identify and reunite separated and unaccompanied children. Ensuring that children set out on the best path in life is critical, and being in a family is critical. But we also know that that too is merely part of the battle. We also have to fundamentally protect them along the way. Earlier, Koki shared a clip from President Obama's speech at the Clinton Global Initiative, where he spoke passionately about what he called one of the great human rights struggles of our time, the reality of modern child slavery. He shared in that speech a story of a young girl named Marie, a trafficking survivor in the Democratic Republic of Congo, who sought help at a transition center that the American people support through our foreign aid programs. With Marie's permission, President Obama shared her story with millions of people in order to help spur a global movement against human trafficking. Since then, we've launched a Trafficking Grand Challenge, a technology challenge to enable students from Pepperdine University and across this great country to be involved in the fight at protecting people from trafficking. Across the world today, 5.5 million children are engaged in forced labor, the type of which you see in this photograph. Roughly 300,000 children serve as soldiers for rebel and government forces. And terrifyingly large numbers of children, 150 million girls and 73 million young boys, have experienced rape or other forms of sexual violence. Marie's story of resilience and courage in light of these dramatically negative points of trauma in her life give us all hope. From setting up safe, child-friendly spaces in refugee camps where children can receive on-site food and water and join classes and learn and grow, to changing community attitudes about rape and the stigma of rape through door-to-door outreach programs in the DRC, our efforts and our investments can make a huge difference. To help make more of these stories possible, we've launched 3 separate grant competitions to harness the power of science and technology to tackle these challenges. Each of these efforts is designed to identify new solutions and to use the fact that data today can be open and transparent for everyone to see and act upon, and to leverage the reality that the best problem solvers may be the children themselves. Like most people, I was pulled into this work because of a strong desire to help make the world a better place. A desire that's grown deeper with each passing day as I've watched my own 3 young children grow. In development, we like to talk about the importance of data and concrete results. And this action plan is a fine example of that very rigorous approach to our investment work around the world. But the reality is that many of us come to this work not because we are inspired by a grounding in hard data and analysis, although some of us are, but by a shared desire to help create a more just world. And so while we know that our future prosperity and security are tied to our capacity to implement this plan effectively, we also know that perhaps the most important part of implementing this plan is the genuine expression of meaning, of self-worth, and of our basic morality that it represents. Thank you.
We have here two great experts. Dr. Block is the immediate past president of the American Pediatric Association, and Kent Hill is with World Vision, having spent a lifetime in this field. So we've talked a lot here today about the science, the science, the science. Dr. Block, the science has us where in terms of this action?
Well, Cookie, let me say first that I'm a dedicated donor to NPR and PBS.
Good, that's excellent. And
and
I hope all the rest of you are too.
Occasionally when you do that, you get a coffee mug or a t-shirt. I gave an exceptional amount this year, and I got Cookie Roberts.
I'll be happy to do the recording on your home answering machine.
You got it. That will work. The American Academy of Pediatrics is a group of over 62,000 pediatricians and young pediatricians in training. And we say in our agenda for children that we are dedicated to the health of all children. So it makes sense for us to be, or to have this wonderful opportunity today to answer the question you just asked about science. We've known for a long while that the work of Professor Heckman has taught us that early investment in childhood and continuing investment in childhood makes great economic sense. I think that needs to turn into a political argument at some point in time because the money that we need is there. We're just spending it on the wrong things at the wrong time.
And a lot of it's very cheap.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, saving newborn babies is cheap.
It doesn't cost very much. Saving them after the fact, after they've grown up, is an issue. So what we now know are two basic things. We understand from a lot of research that's been going on over the last several years that the brain and the body, which by the way are not disconnected, that the brain and the body, our brain health is as important as any other factor in our health, can be modified to huge extents by several things that can happen during early childhood. One of those is what we call toxic stress, which is the relationship of children living with no chance to escape from adversities in stressful environments. And what happens is that their body creates stress hormones in huge amounts that changes not only the function, but also the anatomical structure of the brain. And that change then can lead to multiple health problems throughout life. So that's area number one in a very simplified fashion. Number two is our continuing understanding and evolution of our understanding of the human genome and epigenetics, what happens to that genome, and how that can be heavily influenced by the adversities and the toxic stress that children live with. So I think it's important for us to recognize that childhood is not really a dress rehearsal. You only get one childhood, but also childhood is not a one-act play, because every adult in this room, every adult in the world was once a child. And what happens to us as children, we now know, not from an advocacy position, but from a scientific position, that there are biological changes, there are genetic changes that then put a child who is living in those adverse circumstances at extraordinarily high risk for health, for brain health issues later in their life. I could talk for an hour, but you won't let me, so I'll stop with that.
Well, I could listen for an hour because it's fascinating. And we do know so much more about brain development in those early years, as Dr. Shaw was talking about, those first 1,000 days. So you're on the ground implementing this. And what does this information mean by way of implementation?
It's really tremendously important. Any development professional would be absolutely foolish to begin their work without taking into account the evidence we have that Dr. Heckman and Dr. Block and others have presented. So the good development programs, not just World Vision, Save the Children, Catholic Relief Services, we all do the same thing here. We take very seriously what needs to happen here. The fact that the first 1,000 days is so important means that the very inexpensive intervention of nutrition for a mother who's carrying a child will have a huge impact. Prenatal classes have a huge impact. World Vision stumbled into, I won't say stumbled into, they came to the conclusion after several decades that we had to do area development programs, which were sort of from conception right up through teenage years, thinking about how to handle all sorts of things at the same time and make a multi-year commitment so that you can really hit every aspect of a community, the family, and not just the child. So there is a direct correlation and connection between the science and what we do in the field.
And the problem of getting to the children? I mean, you know, they're often in very difficult places to get to.
Right, but just yesterday, World Vision released a report of an interview with 100 Syrian refugee children in Lebanon. We have in the refugee camps there the child-safe spaces that are designed by psychosocial experts to protect them, to give them education, even in times of stress. So when you design programs for emergency situations, you can have components worked in that will protect children who might easily be trafficked in that situation. You get them as safe as you can. You have one of your child well-being targets, not just to survive till 5, but the sense of well-being that a child expresses. So you can do that. You can plan that way, even in fragile contexts.
No, that's what Save the Children does, of course. So I've been in many of those situations. Do you see the science continuing to develop and teaching us more that we can do?
I certainly do. I think that, we had early studies like the ACEs studies, the Adverse Childhood Experiences studies, that made a connection between adversities in childhood and adult health later, but we didn't quite know why. Now we know a little bit about why that has evolved, and it's sort of proven that the connection is there. Same is true, I think, for what we've learned in applying medical sciences to Dr. Heckman's economic equations. We're just scratching the surface right now, particularly in epigenetics, with what we know about the genome and the effects on the genome and the consequent effects on the rest of the body. This is a complicated science. It's certainly not one that I understand at the bench level, but it's going to continue. And not only is it going to show us how these things develop, it may also show us some roads to recovery.
Well, I hate to cut this short, but we are running out of time. But this epigenetics sounds absolutely fascinating. So thank you both, and we'll stay with us. Okay, thank you.
Drop the song. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I'm looking for some people who's looking for peace. Maybe together we could make the war cease. Now we can send mankind to the moon. We can reach to the bottom of the sea. That's why it's really kind of baffles me that we cannot end wars and bring peace. We cannot change the way people act. We cannot change the way people think. So you will sit back, chill out and relax. Civilization will soon be extinct. That's why I am. Yeah, I'm calling on the whole wide world. Come on people, would you help me? Let's scream and shout, cause we want peace. To say the least, I dedicate this song to the common people caught in the middle of this common evil. I wish the world was a little bit fairer. Time to start looking at the man in the mirror. Fear is the devil policeman. Fear make a genocide with him so he can. Feel a war of genocide now because we can. Silent of the lamb cause nobody was speaking. That's why I am. I'm calling on the whole wide world. Come on people, would you help me? Let's scream and shout cause we want peace. To say the least. And after Rwanda, not far from Rwanda, we're gonna shout for the poor people living in Darfur. The world gone deaf, the world gone blind, the world busy sitting down on their behind. Nobody cared about the poor and needy. Too busy sucking up to the rich and the greedy. For every hero there's a villain. I ain't kidding, we're gonna shout setting up our city. One more time, we got no more time. We gotta figure out a way that we could all combine. Like Jericho, the wall comes stumbling down. The sound of voices out of cities around. You know what it's worth. Gotta put our voice to work. We gotta shake down heaven and look. That's why I am. I'm calling on the whole wide world. Come on, people, would you help me? Let's scream and shout, cause we want peace. To say the least. Come on, everybody, come on. Come on, everybody, come on. Stand up, stand up. You want peace, and I want peace, yo. Come on, everybody, come on. Come on, everybody, come on. Stand up, stand up. You want peace, and I want peace, yo. Come on, everybody, come on. Come on, everybody, come on. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all, and thank you for a wonderful event. And have a great holiday, and we're off to a great start. Thank you.